Listen. So anytime 8711, now 87 North Productions, has a new movie coming out, I'm going to be there when it opens. Luckily, Universal was kind enough to send us a link our way. And because we like the movie, I shouldn't be receiving one of these.
That's copyright infringement.
This time around, we follow Hutch Mansell, who's a nobody, known as nobody, but not by everybody. That is until somebody breaks into his house and he ends up leaving a trail of dead bodies. It's kind of like Falling Down meets John Wick, which makes sense since they got the guy who did the Wick trilogy to pen the script. It's directed by the dude who did Hardcore Henry, and it stars Bob.
Hey! I might have, overcorrected.
Now, considering Universal's new 17-day window for their movies to go from theaters to digital release, I'd say it's worth the rented if they're able to roll it out at a decent price, because if you're an action movie fan, I'd say this delivers on the brutality. Let me explain. So Odenkirk plays your average Joe who's living a mundane life until a break-in happens that unleashes the inner action star inside of him. And it was crazy to hear that Bob actually trained for 2 whole years before filming since he wanted to do the stunts himself. And I was actually surprised by how all in he went. That makes sense when you consider what inspired the story.
I had a couple break-ins in my house, and it left me with a feeling of a lot of thoughts about violence, about guns, about frustration, about protecting your family, lingering feelings that you're left with. And I thought it'd be some kind of spark to make an action movie and a bit of fantasy role playing. Because in real life, you know, you should do what I did, which is keep the damage and the violence to a minimum and get the heck out of the way.
That idea of how you would react to that scenario becomes a big part of the movie, and it's inspired by the aftermath that he went through in real life and the ripple effect it had on his family, pretty much becoming that force majeure moment.
But the truth is, you know, afterwards you're left with a feeling of, I wonder what I could have done if I had to, and I kind of wish I'd had to.
I wish they'd have picked my place, you know?
His wife is played by Connie Nielsen, who's been on a great run this past year, from fighting sea monsters to intergalactic demons and now suburbia.
It's been a hell of a day.
You can see that.
You can see it as an introspective on his manhood, you know, him going through the drivel of his day-to-day life. Them as a couple, they're not as intimate as they used to be. His wife makes more than he does. He went from his WM to working for her family's WM, and there's such a big divide between them. I'm not just talking about the MyPillow that they have in between their bed.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
According to the director, he also sees it as a story of addiction. You know, obviously Hutch is a good man, but it shows how an old habit sparks something inside of him that he's eager to unleash, and it's something you see even in his ex-FBI father, played by Christopher Lloyd, who, I'm not gonna lie, at first when I saw him, I thought it was Theo Hector, but instead of the ring ring ring, this man went. The director himself also swapped out the villains in the script to be Russian, since he himself is Russian. He felt more comfortable making all the jokes that he did there. You know, he's got the extra references to Black Russians, which seems to be the go-to joke right now with all these studios. He even snuck in some Pentagon jokes in there, but it's still that same story of a Russian mob seeking vengeance for their family member. There is clearly a hierarchy and lore to this world, from the barber to Hutch's previous jobs, which instills fear in anyone who searches up his history. But in the end, it really all just comes down to
Ilya had told his agent, I would like to make, I'm going to try to quote him right, I would like to make an action movie with an actor who does drama who used to be a comedian. And so I guess I was tailor-made for his dream.
Easily the 3 biggest set pieces that stand out for the movie are the house invasion scene, the warehouse fight, and of course the one you see in the trailer, the bus scene. Personally, I really like the fact that he was always getting beat up. I like that they didn't stray away from the possibility of one of the dudes trying to get a cheap shot into his back while he's busy fighting the other 4 dudes.
And that was one of your points you wanted to
get punched and hit my head on like a bar or something.
And I'm really glad
because
that you kept
it's
this in.
so pathetic.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you never see Jason Statham do that. You never see Jason Bourne hit his head. You never see Liam Neeson do that.
And you know what? Bob kept that energy.
And we stayed on him as long as we could till we actually had to cut because of an impact. And that's a huge compliment to him.
You just don't see that so much anymore. Part of it is that relatively new style of very cutty.
Fast cuts.
Yeah, like Paul Greengrass style, which started with the Bourne films, and certainly the Taken films do it for other reasons.
The RZA also comes in blazing, and if you know him, he's a big film and martial arts buff who's done a bit of directing himself, but it's always dope to see him in action, and he had some of the best action bits in this one. Like, there's a part where he unscrews a silencer into someone's mouth, shoots another dude behind him, and uses the recoil of the gun to butt another dude in the face. It is beautiful. The soundtrack was also mixed perfectly for the action pieces, especially the Pat Benatar bit. The story is sometimes slower than the slow motion that you see on screen, but I think it's still entertaining, to the point that because I had the link, I watched it again while working out, and my little LME biceps were getting pumped, so it definitely delivers as your popcorn action flick. I do think it would be fun to see Bob do the comedic action movie that he really wants to dive into, because knowing the man as a writer, going back to his SNL days, I think he would have much better dialogue within the movie for the characters, because so far I'd say the weakest part is that some of them aren't as fleshed out as they could be. But you know, you even look at John Wick 1 to John Wick 2 and how much that was able to expand, so you never know. Overall, I don't think it overstays its welcome, and I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel personally, considering you even have that mid-credit sequence. And who knows, he may even team up with a certain somebody.
Who? The fucking nobody?
That fucking nobody is John Wick.
Thank you guys for checking out this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I didn't know that you could track somebody through their Metro card, which I guess kind of makes sense, you know, until they get the crypto cards out there. But I'm very curious to see what this production company is going to be doing next. They have a couple of movies on their slate. I'm specifically eyeing that Netflix one called Kate with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I hope they go all out with that one. I know that they were helping out on some Birds of Prey stuff, so if Mary Elizabeth Winstead takes that and is even more brutal in this movie, oh, I'm up for it. I am curious to see how they're able to expand this story. I know that it's doing pretty well, kind of, depending on how you look at theaters right now. But you know, I think it's a fun little movie. I don't think it's anything too big. It's exactly that popcorn flick that you need it to be. Delivers on its action, and I'm curious to see if they're able to make something bigger with it, because they definitely have just like a surface that they scratch that could be much bigger. But we'll see. Other than that, Universal, this is all EPK footage. Probably doesn't matter. So until this video gets blocked, thank y'all for watching, and until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll send you a kitty cat bracelet.